Come experience the ownership privilege of owning a bully at Tillman Williams Kennel. The link is right there at the top line of the description box. Not only do they have championship bloodlines, they have products, how-to videos, and a formal payment plan to fit any budget. Click the link at the top line of the description box. And when you hit them up, tell them Old God sent you. That's Tillman Williams Kennel and Homestead. Link is at the top line of the description.
Oh, absolutely.
Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure being with the gods. Always a pleasure. And
Yes,
hopefully I can shine some light on some issues today.
for sure.
Definitely, definitely. So I seen I think a post you did on Threads, I think it's called.
Yeah, threads.
Yeah, I don't know. I came across it and I'm like, oh wow. And it made me think to hit you up for the interview. But you were
Okay.
talking about the Diddy case. And I don't want to, misquote you because I didn't put the quote up here in front of me, but it was
Yeah, I
somewhere
know
along
which
the
one.
lines.
I've been saying a couple things. Which one you
Okay.
saw? Which one you saw?
Was it I think it might have been the one where you were talking about this is not a RICO case or it's
Yeah,
more of a state. That one. Could you
yeah.
elaborate?
So, in the initial looking at the initial evidence, the first few witnesses, my take was that this is a state domestic violence case, being portrayed as a RICO case. That's what it looked. That's what it looks like so far, and my position hasn't changed up until this day, considering the witnesses and all the testimony that I've seen so far. It still looks like a domestic violence case that they tried to roll into a RICO.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, so, if you're familiar with me, I don't deal in emotions when it comes to this stuff. Right. And so it's very emotional. And a lot of people are having emotional reactions. But when it comes to the court, when it comes to what jurors have to look at, the thing that they have to do is set emotions aside.
Mm-hmm.
The judge is going to instruct them that you cannot have any sympathy for either side, for or against either side, cannot enter into your deliberations. So the fact that you think he's a monster, that these things that were done were atrocious, he's a despicable person, those are not factors that are going to satisfy the elements of the crimes that he's charged with. And that's what it comes down to, whether or not those elements have been satisfied, right? And so when I'm looking at a RICO case, typically when we're looking at RICO, right, historically, these are prosecutions. Everybody knows organized crime, right? That's what you think of when you think about RICO. And then legislatively, when this was being enacted, it was to get those types of organizations that are shrouded in the secrecy, and that they are engaging in these types of behavior for profit.
Mm-hmm.
RICO is about commercial profit. RICO is about engaging in particular types of crimes: extortion, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, bribery, embezzlement, loan sharking, those types of crimes for the purpose of making money. Making money, right? So if you're saying I'm sex trafficking, when we think of it in a RICO context, it's I got these hoes and they gonna go make this money for me.
Yep.
Right? I'm gonna put you out there, whether I'm put you on the straw, I'll put you on back page, I'm put you somewhere, and you gonna go, and the people that have sex with you are going to pay me. I'm not fucking paying them.
Right.
I'm not paying them. That's not how sex trafficking works. Sex trafficking, I'm making money. So I'm not, and the evidence so far does not support that. It supports that there's an individual who has means and access and has a very freaky lifestyle. And these are the things that he did to support that lifestyle. I still haven't seen the conspiracy. Where's the okay, because by definition, conspiracy is you have to agree with one or more other people. Where's the conspiracy? Because the employees that are doing the bidding, they are not co-conspirators,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if they are, how come they haven't been charged?
Right.
They haven't, not only have they not been charged, we see them coming to testify. We don't even hear that they're testifying under immunity deals, right? So we saw the Punisher come and testify. He testified that he engaged in, I don't know, however many freak offs with Cassie, right? And so if we accept that she was not able to consent, then didn't he rape her too?
Mm.
Ooh. Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he came in and he testified. No, she was with the shits, right? He came in, but what else was he gonna say? Was he gonna come in and say, you know what? She didn't look like she was kind of with it, but I still hit it. He's not gonna say that, because then you just lined yourself up. You a whole creep, right? You a creep and you low key a rapist. So he's not going to do that. He's going to come in and support, and his testimony, I think, supported the defense's theory of this case, that Cassie was a willing participant throughout all of these freak-offs. Even in some of them, she orchestrated them, she set them up, she paid in some instances. And so maybe what we're seeing is not rape, but I think I've talked about this before, is sexual regret. Sexual regret is not rape, right? But it could look like it. It could look like it, right? But from what I can see, I have not been convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that this is a RICO case that involves sex trafficking or even drug trafficking, right? Because the drugs that they were talking about, he was buying drugs for his personal use. That's not trafficking.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care how you stretch this shit around. I don't care. It's not there. You can't make this, square peg fit into your round hole. I don't see it yet, though. Yet. I don't know. I say yet because we got 1 weekend and they claim that this trial is going to take 8 whole weeks.
Wow.
What? Really? 8 weeks? Who else y'all got? Right, so there may be another couple of victims. We know that there's at least one victim that's in the wind. I know there's going to be a therapist or some type of mental expert who's going to come in and try to explain battered women syndrome and why a woman wouldn't leave. But you know what? There were plenty of people that left.
Yep.
There were plenty of people that left, and no harm came to them. They were like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this shit anymore. And no harm came to them. Extortion. Okay, so Cassie's mother paid him $20,000. She got her money right back. Nobody's reporting that though, right? Because we got these sensational little, bloggers and half wannabe journalists that are out there half reporting for clicks and likes. And the extortion has been proven because his mother wired the money to Diddy to his business, and she was an artist, and he said that she owed money that she had to recoup. Now listen, that shit could have been completely bullshit.
Right? Exactly. Right.
Completely bullshit because he's a petty little man, right? And he didn't need no 20 stacks from these people, and which is probably why he sent it back. But that's still it supports the theory that he's just a jealous person, right? Who does petty little shit because he can. That's not criminal. It might be immoral, right? It might be immoral, but I don't think it rises to the level of criminality.
So we talked about because we've talked about Diddy's case previously prior to the trial beginning. And we talked about the government's percentile when it comes to winning these cases, and we had a very high upper 90s. As of right now, we've seen it from the outside looking in, and your expertise, you haven't seen it yet, but there is still time. In your experience, do you typically see the federal government kind of, I'm gonna say for right now, slow playing this, or if they really had something substantial to fit their case of RICO or trafficking or drug trafficking or those things, would we have seen these things a little earlier, or does it usually take this type of time before everything starts getting rolled out?
I think this is their case.
Woo.
I think this is their case. I really don't think they have much more than what they have alleged in their opening, that this is going to be about this individual. And they say I don't know how they say that this again is a conspiracy. This is one person. Is one person. I just don't see it. And I think the last time we talked about it, we said it would come down to consent, right? It would come down to whether or not these women were willing participants, or whether or not they were forced, or this was coercion, or they were under duress. And up until this point, I haven't seen anything that suggests beyond a reasonable doubt, right, that this was a coerced behavior on Cassie's part, right? Because she had the agency. Let's just talk about this for a second. She had the agency to have relationships with other men. I mean, if you're terrified and you are, that's not how you move. If you are in a relationship where you are suffocating and you can't make moves, you don't engage in other relationships with other people out in the open and things of that nature. She had agency to do a lot of things that women who are under the thumb of an abusive person do not get to do. Right now, I'm not saying she had I'm not excusing the violence that we've all seen. I'm not excusing that at all. Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is that is a state domestic violence issue. It should long ago should have been prosecuted by the state. And since it wasn't, it's now too late. Statute of limitation has run on that, which is why they can only bring a RICO.
Wow. What do you think about his defense lawyer, their strategy? He did get a woman on the team. They said she was a bulldog attacking. What do you think of their strategy? We can't really watch it, but we can only read. Yeah. So what's your expertise on the way they're attacking the case, in particular attacking like through the cross-examination portion?
Listen, cross-examination is the crucible to truth. It is the most important part of any trial. Direct examination is always going to go smooth, right? For the most part, because that's your witness. Right. When you think about someone like a Dawn Rashad, they met with her 8 times. So I've tried cases in the Southern District. I know how they prep their witnesses. And you need to meet with someone 8 times because they can't get their story straight. So you got to meet with them over and over again because no, you didn't get it right. You didn't get it right the last time. You didn't get it right the last time. You didn't get it right the last time. And then maybe by the 7th or the 8th, you're getting closer to what we need you to say, which is why that shit falls apart on cross-examination. That's why cross is so important, right? Because you're not going to see the holes on direct. Effective cross-examination. So I think they're doing what they need to do. I don't think all of them are equally skilled at cross-examination. I think we saw the difference in their approaches. When you see Nicole Westmoreland, she's taking your throat. She's going for the jugular, right? She understands the importance of impeaching, and it's a skill. Right. And a lot of lawyers don't know. They think they just go right into it. No, there's a buildup when you are trying to impeach someone. Right. And I think I posted the 3 C's of impeachment. You don't just go to confronting someone. You have to get them to confirm the shit they said before. You get them to credit that that's what they said. And when they said it, that their memory was fresher then than it is now. Then you confront them with the shit they said now, which is inconsistent with what they said before. It's a buildup to it. It's an art to it, right? And I don't see all of them doing that. I don't see all of them starting with what we call closed questions, right? When you're on cross-examination, you should not be asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions elicit too much information, right? I'm on cross. I know what I need from you. So here's how I get it. Isn't it true that this happened? And weren't you also here? The only response I want from you on cross is yes or no.
Right.
Because that's how you control a witness on cross. You never ask a witness a question you don't already know the answer to. That's why you don't ask open-ended questions, right? So I think some of them are doing a really good job. And I think as this plays out and we get to see who is more adept at cross-examination, we will see more of them, right? We'll see them doing more. Because I think, I'm sure that Mr. Combs is going to be watching and seeing who he thinks is the most effective at cross-examination. And I'm sure he will tap them to do more of the crosses. And we'll see that play out as the weeks go on.
Absolutely. I'm still here. I don't know what happened to my camera. I do apologize.
I'm like,
I'm loud and clear, and I'm gonna get it together. I'm here with you, Mr. Shabazz. I got you.
All right, good.
I wanna ask you about, because we seen Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
He testified yesterday, and I thought, if anything, because of the rumors and the allegations that we've heard over the years about Diddy and Cudi, that may be a smoking gun in favor of the prosecution that could maybe tie Diddy up to some type of organized crime and everything like that. And from what we gathered yesterday, that seemed honestly, in my opinion, lean toward the defense's side as well, and their advantage as well. So can you speak about Kid Cudi's testimony to the best of your knowledge, as much as you have gathered in it? What was your thoughts prior to it? Are you kind of on my side thinking that may have been something, or did you know it was kind of like, man, I don't know if they got something all along?
No, listen, I thought this person is not that dumb, right, Mr. Combs, that he would leave his fingerprints all over this thing if it was him. So it's a lot of speculation and conjecture that it was him who torched this man's car. But even if we accept that it was him, this is his jealous rage.
Right.
This is just consistent with his behavior in the relationship as a jealous, violent paramour. That's what that is. It doesn't sound like a RICO. He's like, I'm gonna torch your car if you don't run me 10 stacks. Right? That's when we're bordering on racketeering, right? Because now I'm using my influence to make money, to get something commercial from you. And I don't, that's not what happened. I think the other part of what his testimony was, he admitted that Cassie, she played me too.
Yeah.
So she had some agency to play some people. So I mean, I think that I don't think the jury is gonna look away from that. I think that that's gonna land on them equally as hard as any other evidence that he may have said.
Do you think the prosecution brought Kid Cudi in with the knowledge that he would say something like that, or do you think that kind of caught them off guard? Because I don't think anybody expected that.
Of course not. They no way. It's and that's the other thing is, I don't even know what they're doing. Some of the testimony is cumulative. It's not adding anything. It's just corroborating what we already know, right? You bring in Dawn Richard to say that she witnessed some of these acts that Cassie already testified about. Why'd you call her? She wasn't helpful to the prosecution. In fact, she got her ass torn up on cross, and it made it look worse. And I think one of the things that the defense is going to do is not only to talk about the witnesses and how bad they are, but the prosecution, because these witnesses are a product of their fucking prep, right? These witnesses are a product of their preparation. They're coming and testifying this way because this is how they prepared them to testify, right? And so if you think that the witnesses are problematic, then you also have to attribute that to the prosecution. This entire prosecution is problematic. I would have loved to see that Diddy hire 6 black women to go against 6 white women. Oh, baby. Oh man, he missed that opportunity because right. You see how Westmoreland went for it. Can you imagine? You want something done right, you get a black woman to do it, baby. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's man. So do you think something triggered this? Like it was like a secret vendetta or something? Because if their case is not as strong, usually when the feds bring it, they bring it.
Yeah. No.
So why?
I think the civil lawsuit put a lot of pressure on the Southern District to do something. To do something, right? A lot of people were like, "How could he get away with this? How come nobody's doing anything?" Right? And I think there was a lot of pressure from public outcry to do something, and so they did something, and they brought this case. It doesn't mean that it has the prosecutorial merit simply because they brought it. The government is good for bullshit. Right. And listen, I don't know if Trump, if he's convicted, if Trump might be like, you know what? I'm gonna
Get my
pardon
man
you.
out there and get my boy
Exactly,
out
because I've had my share of these allegations,
Mm.
right? Same types of allegations, maybe not the violence part, but certainly the sexual part. I've had my share of witch hunt trials, and you know how he feels about the Comey family, right? And one of the lead prosecutors in this case is James Comey's daughter.
Mm.
And so, as far as he's concerned, you know, that whole tree is rotten, and the fruit from the tree is rotten too. So he very well may look at this and say, you know what, if the Comeys were involved, then this was not a legit prosecution, and he might pardon him. He might, or give him some type of clemency. If he gets, you know, if he gets sentenced to jail, it's in the realm of possibility. Let me just say that I wouldn't count it out.
Now, me and my cousin, we were talking a couple of days ago about the case, and it seemed like to us that the federal government, they went in there, they raided Diddy's homes in pursuit of seeing something more than what it was, and all they found was a bunch of freaky ass videos between him, Cassie, and a bunch of other people. Right. And they said, okay, this is it. Now, we also know that Cassie was in the preparation of writing a book, or she even wrote a book and then settled for $20 million, and then all of a sudden this lawsuit came out. So we were saying that maybe we feel like the federal government may have pressured her into doing things that she may not have wanted to do. What do you think about that?
100%, 100,000%. She did not want to come and testify about any of this. Mm-hmm. None of that. If it was her choice, she would have took her 20 million and kept it pushing. Word. Right? I should say 30 million, because she's supposed to be getting 10 million from the hotel. Right? Mm-hmm. So 30 million. She would have took her 30 million and kept it. Like, who the hell wants to tell people that somebody peed in my mouth?
Right.
Like, who's volunteering for that shit in front of your husband? Right. And while pregnant, in front of your husband, who has to listen to how you was sleeping with another man in the act while he was calling you on FaceTime.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I had one of my subscribers asked a question. They said, "Do you think this will change the way that sexual favors are done in the industry? Like, do you think it'll change the way people move?" No. Okay.
No. The sex industry is $1 billion industry, and nothing has rocked it, changed it. Nothing. I think that industry is insulated from, you know, anything that could really affect it.
No. Right. Okay. Definitely.
No, we also talked about
people gonna stop paying for Pornhub. People gonna stop ordering hoes. No. People gonna stop paying for pussy. No. It's the oldest profession for a reason. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. My grandmother said, if you're a woman, you should never be broke. I don't subscribe to that. I'm just
saying. There's power in it, and put it that way.
I'm just saying.
Power in it. It's power. Look what Diddy's going through now with it, man. But
okay.
So we were talking about if Diddy were to get off of this case, would there be any ramification on his side towards the people that kind of spearheaded this witch hunt, so to speak, as far as social media's perspective or is concerned? Because it also seems like the public, like you said, the public outcry on social media had a huge influence on this whole situation happening. And there are some key names at the head of that, and we won't mention their names now, but do you think that Diddy will go ahead and legally look for some type of damages or defamation like we see other celebrities starting to do?
I think if he beats this, he's going to want to put this behind him. I don't think he's going to want to drag this out, revisit it, have to deal with another lawsuit that deals with this. Because people don't really understand. When you file a lawsuit, that is a huge endeavor, right? Because then there's discovery, and you've got to start turning over shit. And then you got to start receiving stuff, and you got to review stuff. It's not just something you just do willy-nilly because you're angry. You know what I mean? So I don't really think he's going to do that. I know he's petty, but hopefully he's learned some things right throughout this process, and sometimes it's best to leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
So let's think about this also. I don't think anything would change in terms of you know, what he can do in the industry. I think he can just go right back to being who the fuck he was, because he was the same person before this fucking trial. Everybody knew he was doing this shit. People knew. We may not have known the extent of it, right? But people knew that he was engaging in these types of. People knew about the Diddy parties. People knew about, the violence, and turned a blind eye to it and a deaf ear. You're not gonna care now. They could pretend to care while this trial is happening, but they don't really care. They don't. They don't. And in memories, everybody suffers from the great forgetting, right? 6 months after this trial, anybody gonna even think about this shit.
Yeah.
That's the truth, unfortunately.
It'll be somebody else on trial. We'll be talking about Tory Lanez again, right? It'll be some other.
Speaking of,
No, I think his lawyers just need to stop robbing this man. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm throwing that out here. In my opinion, I think they need to get your hands out his pocket. That's what I say. Stop it. Stop. Just stop. Do your time. Get you some good earned merit time so you can get out early. Do whatever you got to do. Find your program, whatever to try to get you out early. But these press conferences that you're having about witnesses who did not show up for you at trial while you sat silent, and now you want to say that the woman who was testifying in your trial against you is the person you were protecting this whole time. Come on, man. What?
Yeah, too little, too late.
Don't even have the ring of truth. You want to talk about paying people? Who's to say you didn't pay this guy to say what he's saying? And that's why it won't fly. There's no independent verification other than him saying it. And that's not enough.
The gunpowder thing, how big is that really? Because do they usually test that right after, or you can have opportunity to wipe it, wash it off, or throw the clothes away? So the fact that there was no gunpowder residue on him, is that big of a deal or no?
So gunpowder residue can be dispersed in a number of different directions. It depends on a lot of different factors. Depends on the type of weapon. Depends on what the night was like. Was it windy? Was it anything like that? I don't know whether or not that is going to be the thing that says no, you did not fire. So the evidence of the absence of a thing, right, is not going to say you can't prove a negative, right? You can't prove something didn't happen, right? So we use to prove it happened, but we cannot use it to prove it didn't happen. I know that that's hard to accept, but that's the logic, right? So if it was there, we could establish that you did fire the gun. But the fact that it's not there does not mean you did not fire the gun. It just means that we don't have the same type of evidence, right? It's a factor I would definitely exploit as a defense attorney at trial, right? I would exploit the fuck out of that. I would make a big deal as the fact that if anybody else that was around, did they get tested for gunpowder residue, right? I think his defense dropped the ball on this case. I said it all along. Unfortunately, we are traumatized people, and we keep putting our faith and our trust and our money into these attorneys that don't look like us and that can't tell our stories. They can't tell our stories, right? And they come in and they have these grandiose notions of the defense that they're going to craft, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. They should never have gotten in front of the evidence in this case. And that was the biggest mistake the defense made. When you are a criminal defendant, you have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove. And they should have let the case come to them. But instead, they tried to get in front of it. And I think that was their biggest mistake.
Just off topic real quick, but as far as attorney and lawyers, how much of it as far as schooling is like a psychological learning and outside of the book learning, like how much of it is like learning the psyche of a person and the psyche and the mindset of people? Like how much is that coming to the learning of becoming a lawyer?
It's a huge part. And you're not going to learn that in law school, right? So I'm a law school professor, right? I teach law school.
Yeah.
There are some things that come from life experience and things that you learn experientially, meaning that you only learn by doing them, right? And so you get to learn to read people by being around people, by engaging people, by doing this work. And that's not something that can be taught. You have to get in there and get in the grind and get that experience. And that's another thing that, there are a lot of lawyers talking about this case. Half of them may never try the case in federal court. Right? I would love for someone to start off with that question. Have you ever tried a federal case? Oh, no? Okay, shut the fuck up. But we're not getting that, right? We just get a lot of talking heads. And because it is rare because of the federal government's conviction rate, a lot of people don't go to trial. Right? Think about that. A lot of people don't go to trial. So a lot of lawyers do not have federal trial experience. I'm not one of them. I have extensive federal trial experience in both the Southern District, the Eastern District. I've even tried cases in Utica, in the Western District, in Connecticut federal court. So I'm one of the rare ones that actually has this experience. And it's very different than state court. It's very different.
That's why we love having you here.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you that because I listened to this one podcast, and the guy who was in jail for a long time. So he talks about, the differences of the courts or whatever the case may be. And he says sometimes
more than most lawyers.
Yeah, he knows a lot. He was just saying like they don't even respect state lawyers in the Fed. Is that true?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
100%. Because listen, when you walk into the federal building, it's like you in court for real. I feel like I'm a grown up and I'm in big girl court now. Like, oh, they actually gonna listen to me cite a case, right? Because it's more formal. The judges are there for life, right? So they are not beholden to anyone. It's apolitical, right? And so your odds of getting a astute judge who is going to listen to you and decide the case on the law, right, is far greater than if you walk into state court where you might find some former ADA judge who is like, yeah, they're going to be a second prosecutor in the case, right? So absolutely, I agree with him 1,000%. Yeah, you bring your A game when you go to federal court. You don't walk in there half cocked, because you will be embarrassed. You will be embarrassed. The judges do not play.
And it seems like they're more thorough. Like the at least the prosecution is way more thorough. It's even intimidating. We went to a trial, ARI's trial, and I thought I wasn't leaving the building. And I wasn't even on trial. It's intimidating.
It is. It's very intimidating. And this judge is not playing any games. These judges, the federal judges, they are so on it. I don't know if you remember back when they were doing the bail applications, and I think Diddy should be out. He would be out if he had I don't want to disparage anyone, but if they would have done a better bail package out the box, right? I think he would have been out, because I think this judge was really poised to give him bail, but I think the lawyers flubbed it, right? Because they made some representations that were not accurate, and they got called to the carpet on it. The judge was like, "Man, you said that material was legal material, and you said it said legal material on it, and I have a picture of it. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that," because they were arguing that certain documents that had been taken from Diddy's cell were protected material, right? Where the prosecution was saying that material is witness tampering, right? And so the lawyers were like, that's work product, right? That's protected because that's what he's using to help us with our trial. That was legal information. And the judge was like, no, it wasn't. It didn't say that, right? And so you lose credibility with the court. Now I'm not letting your client out. I don't trust shit you say. I don't trust you. Because when the court is taking a gamble and letting someone out who might be a threat to the public, who has the potential to be a threat to the public, they really are listening to what the court, you're an officer of the court. You have a duty of candor. That means you have to be honest, right? And so the court is taking you at your word in what you say. And if they find that you said something that is not true, they are not going to listen to you later when you say, you know what, he's going to be, there's going to be a security outside and he's going to be monitored, and the court is like, yeah, no, denied.
Mm.
They did. I think they did that to themselves.
Right. How much time does Diddy have to prepare? Like, do the attorneys come to the jail? Because obviously being at, home, it'd be different than being in jail. So how does that work? They come to the prison?
They probably go to the prison after court every day.
Okay.
And that's that's one of the arguments that I did not hear them make, is how difficult it is to prepare and confer with your client when they are when they're in custody. It is exponentially more difficult to try a case with an in defendant than it is with an out defendant, right? Especially when you have this type of evidence is electronic format. So what we got to schlep our laptops here and there in hopes that we can get some Wi-Fi and or that the equipment at the jail, we hope that works, and our jump drives will work, and that it is so much more difficult. One of the things that I think I would have done strategically, right, is my client is Muslim, Judge. We need Fridays off. We need Fridays off.
Right.
That gives us a day to prepare, to meet with you, right? Which is not the weekend, because the weekends, lawyers, they have lives too.
Right.
Right. Got personal lives. They've got other cases that they need to tend to. Right. I think, having the Friday off would have been beneficial to the defense. And I don't know why they didn't try to get an accommodation like that.
Right. Now, these I spoke to a few lawyers. Some charge like $400 an hour or more. How much you think this is going to cost, Diddy, when it's all said and done? I was like, $400 an hour? Come on, bro. That's crazy.
Well, lawyers base their hourly rate on their experience, the length of time they've been practicing. So you won't have an attorney who just graduated from the bar talking about $400 an hour. You're not worth it. You're not worth it. You haven't demonstrated your ability. You haven't demonstrated your successful, your success rate. Nothing like that, right? So these are typically established attorneys who have a track record where they could point to and say, "Listen, I did this and this and this and this and this and this and that, right? And I'm worth this money." So yeah, it can be expensive. Now, in terms of his case, typically these cases we do on a flat fee. Right, it wouldn't be an hourly fee, because that would be a nightmare trying to sit there and calculate, how many hours you spend on a trial. So it's easier to do it as a flat fee, and I'm sure somewhere in the millions of dollars. Right. In the millions of dollars, because I think at this point he's 10 attorneys, right?
Really?
I think he's up to 10. Wow. I think there are 10 attorneys on the case right now. And let's just say they are each getting $200,000.
Are they all? Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Are they all as equally important? Like, does he need all of them to get out of what he's going through?
So, just obviously from on the outside looking in, I think that he has tapped specific lawyers for their ability to do specific things.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And so I think each of them have different abilities. Brian still has a different ability than a Nicole Westmoreland. Xavier Donaldson has a different ability than Mark Agnifilo. They all have different approaches and styles. And I think as the weeks go on, like I said before, we'll start to see the ones that Sean Combs likes more. We'll see them doing more work. And we'll see the ones that he doesn't think are effective doing less.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the best possible strategy. Because if you're good in this, I'm getting this one. So this person's good in this type of thing. So he's doing a good job. My last question will be, make a prediction on the outcome of this case. Now, hopefully at the end of it, we can bring you back again. But what's your prediction now? Or is it too early to make a prediction?
It's a little early, only because they claim it's supposed to be 7 more weeks.
Okay.
Right? 7 more weeks. And so there's no telling what other evidence they're going to bring. But if I had to predict right now, understanding the law as I understand it, right? And I'll say this, if any of us had to predict right now, the law requires that you find him not guilty. You know why? Because you haven't heard all of the evidence.
Yeah.
And since you haven't heard all of the evidence, you cannot be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. The law says you cannot decide this case until you have heard all of the evidence. And since we haven't heard all of the evidence, he must be found not guilty at this point, right? So I'm still at not guilty, okay? I can see a hung jury. I could see a holdout. I could see a juror who is like, one or two who are like, you know what? This is morally repugnant. It's offensive, but it's not RICO. It's not a RICO. I could see that. I could see a hung jury.
Now, hung jury, would that lean toward his side, or does it mean we got to do a whole nother trial?
So hung jury would require the court to declare a mistrial, and then the prosecution would have to make a determination as to whether or not they would try this case again. That also would be a consideration as to whether they can get these witnesses to come back. You know, Cassie is off having a baby. I don't know that she's going to be wanting to come back, right? And so you're going to threaten her to come back, and, you know, that becomes a little dicey. And so I don't know, you know, whether or not the DOJ would then step in and say, yeah, you had one bite at the apple and you didn't do it. That's that. Right. So I don't know that they would try it again. I doubt they would, honestly. I doubt they would try it again.
My last question would be, in the event that it was a hung jury and it was a mistrial, is he immediately released, or is he still in prison until they make a determination of whether or not they're going to retry?
So there would be a bail application made, right? And then the government would need to make a representation as to how long they would need before they would retry it, right? So the court can ascertain how long this person needs to sit in jail while they bring a new case, right? Try it again. And so he could very well get a bail at that point. He could get a bail at that point.
Gotcha.
I think there would be a good argument for him to get a bail.
Right. And another thing, they talk about the appeals being like the conviction rate's high, and you can confer this and I'll be done. But the appeal rate, you know, is also high when turning over cases on appeal. Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, well, so appellate courts like to honor, right, the verdicts of the lower courts. They don't like to overturn unless there is a significant, right, or substantial error below, right? And so if there is no error, the court is not just going to sweep in and overturn the conviction because you don't like it. There has to be some legal basis for it. And so if there is a legal basis, the court will overturn. That's the beauty of the federal courts. Like state courts, I don't have that same confidence in state courts, because I've seen state courts where they can contort themselves in a way to uphold things that should not be upheld. We see it in the federal court. We see the Supreme Court doing that right now in some cases. And so, yeah, that's my answer on that.
Appreciate it. Definitely appreciate you, like always.
Yes. Definitely. Thank you for having me. Any questions? Yeah. You know, I'm here. I'm trying to dispel, you know, some of the misinformation and the disinformation that's out there. I've seen some bloggers, I've seen some things, and I'm just like, this didn't even happen in the trial. Right?
Yeah.
It's like Diddy testified and the judge went, I'm like, he didn't even what? Yeah. So people, please be careful about where you consume your information, because not all of it is accurate, right? And we don't want people out there espousing their thoughts and feelings based on misinformation.
That's maybe why we're in this whole big mess now.
Yeah, tell me that.
We definitely appreciate you, Mr. Al-Shabazz, Attorney Al-Shabazz, on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Always a great one. Can't wait to talk to you next time.
Likewise. Thank you for having me. Y'all be good.
All right.